Now, you can try to memorize the order of electron filling in an atom, or you could learn the tricks that tell you how to fill an atom, but it really is just easier to use the periodic table. You can number your periodic table, the rows, as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are your N numbers. Alright, now this first block refers to your S. So if you're talking about one of these elements in these two columns, the last orbital filled is S. The transition metals are known as the D block. This other side over here is the P block, and down here at the bottom we have the F block. Now, notice that an S only has an S level or S suborbital can only hold 2 electrons. So we get an S1 or an S2. D's come in sets of 5, so they can hold 2 electrons each for 10 orbitals, or 10 electrons. So 5 orbitals can hold 10 electrons. So we have D1, D2, D3, D4. I'm going to circle this one because something special happens there. D5, D6, D7, D8, D9. Again, something special happens here. And D10 if it's filled. P orbitals come in sets of 3 times 2 electrons each, holds 6 electrons. So we have P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, and P6. Helium doesn't really count over here. For purposes of electron configurations, let's stick helium over here. Alright, and then we have F electrons, which come in sets of 7 times 2 electrons each is 14 electrons, and we can go from F1 to F14. Now, there are a couple of other things you need to know. S, if you're talking about one of these S orbitals, the N corresponds to the N of the row that you're on. So if we're talking about sodium, the last electron or orbital filled is 3s1, plus all the other electrons before it. If we are talking about P, it goes with the N of the level or row that you're on. So if we're talking about carbon, carbon is on row 2, so the last thing filled would be 2p, and there's 2 p's accounted for. If we were talking about F, it would be 2p5. D's drop down a level. Remember that the 4s actually overlapped the n equals 3 level and came before 3d. So D is always going to be 1 less than the row that you're in. So if we're talking about titanium, we're in row 4, so this is going to be 3D2, just 1 less than the row that you're in. Iridium, we're in row 6, it's going to be 1 less, so it's going to be 5D7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. For F, it's going to be 2 less than the row that you're in. And notice that these are extensions, if you look at how your periodic table is numbered, of these other rows. So I'll go ahead and just write the row number for these 2 rows. So row 6 minus 2 would be, this is the 4F row, and this is the 5F row. So if we're talking about this element, we would fill this one little d before we go to F, so we would have 5D1 4F 1, 2, 3, 4. If we're talking about this one, we would fill this one little d as a 6D1 5F5.